What's up guys, welcome back to Pop Beat Breakdowns. Today's beat breakdown, we're going to be breaking down a Gracie Abrams type beat that I made, basically modelled off of That's So True, one of her hit songs, which is still doing very well in the charts right now. If you're new to this channel, make sure you smash the subscribe button, as it's the best way to support the channel. And on top of that as well, if you are looking for samples for that first source of inspiration for your productions, after this video, make sure you check out The Ultimate Pop Producer Volume 1 at my pack store, Samples by Joe Gautry. But with all that plugging out of the way, let's dive into this instrumental. So right here we have the beat. Let's give it a quick listen and see exactly what it is we're going to be breaking down today. Okay, so essentially this is an acoustic pop song, some kind of folk influences in it as well. Now, I'm going to break it down in the fundamentals in the order that I've made it so you get a best understanding of how to build up a production in this style. Today, we started with acoustic guitar. As you can see here, the first thing I did was I created a subgroup with a couple different layers of acoustic guitar to really sort of like add to that layer of the production and make it nice and full. So I started with this acoustic guitar sample that I found in Splice. It's in B major, and the chord progression, I believe, is 110. Okay, so next I went into Native Instruments, and the two acoustic guitar samples I used today, well, they're not samples, obviously they're from the VST plugins. We have the Acoustic Sunburst Deluxe, and we got a Golden Days A and the Wandering Soul C. So these two guitar patterns I thought were a really good layer for the acoustic guitar. They really like complement each other well, and it sounds like this. Now, acoustic guitar is a very rhythmic instrument. It can really complement the rhythm section as well as the chords and the structure of the track. So that's why it's really good in these types of songs to build up layers of acoustic guitar, not just have one acoustic guitar, because it could very easily just get lost in the mix. And you really want that brightness and percussive nature of the acoustic guitar cutting through in your productions for this type of song, especially like if it's Gracie Abrams as well. So the next thing I wanted to do was add the drums, because acoustic guitar, as I said, very rhythmic. So I want to really try and build up the rhythmic side of the production and sort of like let it sort of like flow and how the flow is going to be. So first thing I did was, after the acoustic guitar, was to add a drum section. So I had it in a couple different layers, which we'll break down separately, but this is the drums. You can hear there's a lot going on here, and I kind of experimented with a couple different loops that I was finding. Like, you can program in hi-hats yourself, but I actually love using loops sometimes for drums, because again, it's not like it's any sort of like completely original ideas. It's all royalty free to use. It's there, and especially if you're someone who's new to music production, it's a very good way to get real nice live sounding instruments that I wouldn't have been able to record in this studio space that I work in. So I started with this hi-hat, added in this shaker, then added in tambourine, and this kind of like set the sort of like tone for it. And obviously we've got a kick just doing the 4 on the floor. And I went interesting, and I decided to add a snare, but at sort of like the last hit of the bar, to kind of add this little kind of bounce to the drums. And on top of that, then I layered in some toms to really kind of like feel the low end of the drums. Then we got crashes with a ride cymbal, which is playing along with the hi-hat on every single beat of the bar. And then obviously I've just added in more snares and toms as well. And lastly, I've just added in some claps to really stamp onto the snare. It gives it a real nice sort of like acoustic live, and also like more like of a folk feel to it. So after that, next thing to do is add the bass. I feel like the bass is a really logical next step when you've done the drums. And I've just like to use an 808 for this one, because when I listened to the Gracie Abrams That's So True beat, there was a real nice sub or low into the choruses, so I wanted to replicate that. So I went into Alchemy, if you're a Logic user, and I used the deep 808 bass, and I rolled off the attack to minus 18.8, but I'd say go to around -20 because that gets rid of any attack on the 808, so you just get the sub. So when you add it in, you get this real nice low end. Just like that. I'll turn that down a bit more. Now we've got the main sort of like bulk of the production done. I wanted to compose a string section like in some of Gracie Abrams' productions. So when it comes to making the strings, you can break it down into sort of like 4 fundamentals. You've got your root note, you've got your chords, and then you've got your melodies. If you could put these all together, you can build a string section very easily. So I started with the chords today, just recording in the chords. Very high up. So then I added next in the root note, like the cello. Laid that with some chords as well to really bulk out the strings. And lastly, just the final bit of ear candy to tie it all together. And then when you put that in context with what we've done so far, as you can hear, it really does bulk up the production and add that extra layer. Next thing to do is add some sort of white noise crash kind of blend because it adds really nicely to the transitions. As you can see, we have reversed it as well. It's very simple, but it just adds that transition to keep things a little bit more interesting between the sections. Now, the next thing we do is we've got to try and add our final layers, sort of like the last fill in the gap kind of parts of the production. And then this is where it can get very sort of like what your preference is. Even though we're trying to make a Gracie Abrams type beat, I felt like piano was a very good direction to go with this because piano and acoustic guitar goes really well. Piano and anything goes really well. So I just laid in some piano chords with what we had so far just to try and help support the chords and the transition of the chords a lot more. And after that, then it's just literally building up the atmosphere of the track for the feel factor. And at this point, it's just pads. So I've layered 3 pads together. I've put my pads all into one drum bus. And we've got the Airways, Eighth Wonder, and Breathless Space. If we listen to these all individually, all of them together create the pad sound that I was after. So we've got this one. Blended with this. Blended with this. And you get this real nice sort of like airy pad, which when you put it into the mix, what you really want to do is add a chorus effect, just like this, 100% mix, 100% intensity, and the 0.033 hertz rate. This pushes the pads right out to the sides of the mix. And because it's like synthetic, you don't really hear the modulation with it. So the pads are at the side of the mix, they're creating the atmosphere. And when you put it all together, then that's when you get the production. So there you go, guys. That is how I made a Gracie Abrams, I'd say, folk/acoustic pop type beat. If you're looking for samples like I've used in your productions, make sure you check out the Ultimate Pop Producer sample pack. This has got 1,000 royalty-free samples, which I've handcrafted from not only beats I've made, but also for this pack. And also make sure you drop a subscribe if you enjoyed this video and don't want to miss another video like this in the future. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep making music, and I'll see you in the next video.